Hey guys, I'm your educator Shulabna Ghoto. Hope you are all doing great. So today I want to brief you about the topic ecological principles. So before starting, I must say that in this rule or in most of the rules in ecology, we're going to see that the name of the rules came from the name of the scientist who discovered the same. So first of all, Bergman's rule, as I said that the rule was proposed by Christian Bergman. So Bergman's rule in ecogeographic principles state that within broadly distributed taxonomic clades, populations and species of large size or volume are found in colder environments, and species of smaller sizes or volumes are found in mostly warmer regions. So Bergman's rule is most often applied to mammals and birds that are endotherms, that means warm-blooded animals. But some researchers have found evidence for the rule in studies of ectothermic animals also, that means in poikilotherms or cold-blooded animals. So now you can easily understand the rule by this chart, which says small animals have large surface area but larger animals have small surface area. But in case of volume or size, we can see that totally opposite of the surface area. So if we calculate the ratio of surface area and size, then we can get high rate in case of smaller animals and low rates in case of larger animals. That's why the small animals lose heat at a faster rate than that of larger animals. Most of the small animals prefer to live in warmer area than that of large animals. So the example of small animals are rat, birds, etc. and the large animals are polar bear, Arctic wolf, etc. So if you guys remember this chart, then I think it will easy to solve many MCQ type questions in competitive exams. Clear? Nextly, the second rule is Allen's rule. This is a biological rule proposed by Joel Allen in the year 1877. So in this case also, the name of the rule came from the name of the scientist. So it is an extension of Bergman's rule. But why? Because it states that endotherms from colder climates usually have shorter limbs or appendages, that means tail, limbs, ears, etc., than the equivalent animals from warmer climates. Or I can say animals in colder climates have shorter appendages than their close relative species in warmer environments. Because in warmer areas animals they have to heat loss, but in colder areas animals they have to heat conserve. So they have shorter limbs than warmer animals. Clear? Now the third rule is Gauss's rule. It is also referred as competitive exclusion principle. So it states that two species that compete for exact same resources, that means food, mating, shelters, etc., cannot stable coexist. One of them have to exclude. So as a consequence or as a result, I can say competing related species often evolve distinguishing characteristics in areas where they coexist. That means the first scenario can be if both two species are fighting for resources, then one can win and other can lose. And the other scenario can be one of them can exclude from the competition by the change in their internal characteristics. Clear? So niche, that means where an individual is more functionally active. So the niche is the control of biosphere. And niche of two species overlap due to availability of common resources results in competition. So this is the overlapping species where competition occurs. Clear? Now for an example of Gauss's law, if we grow two species of paramecium in separate culture medium and in mixed culture according to a specific time period, then we can see the peak become rises and the number of cell become also increased. But if we grow two species in one medium, then we can see the competitively superior species become win and the other one become eliminated. So, the closely related species cannot coexist on a single limiting resource for a particular period of time. The competitive superior species become able to survive, whereas the weakest one become eliminated. Clear? Now the fourth rule is Glogger's rule. It is coined by geologist Lambert Glogger in the year 1833. According to this rule, animals of a given species tend to be darker in color in humid environment or in near the equator, and lighter in color in arid or cool environment or where the temperature is down. Or I can say in warmer or humid climates, animals bear dark pigmentation than those found in cold and dry climates. This is due to the influence of temperature on the absolute size of an organism, or in fact on the phenotypic character of an organism. So for an example, formation of narrow wings in colder regions and broader wings in warmer regions just for the purpose of heat loss. So the reason of this rule may be prolonged exposure to sunlight results in heavy levels of pigmentation in outer layers of endotherms, that means in warm-blooded animals like marlin birds in dry or cool climates are lighter feathered than that of warmer or wet climate marlin birds. Also, I can say human coloration or human skin coloration can be an example of this rule. Clear? Now, the Jordan's rule. This rule is named after David Starr Jordan, the father of American ichthyology or fish science. It is an ecogeographical rule that describes the inverse relationship between water temperature and meristic characters or features in various species in fishes. So what are those meristic characteristics? Those are like fin rays, vertebrae or scale numbers which become increased with decreasing temperature. So here most common example is of marine fishes, in which number of vertebrae increases along a gradient from the tropics to cooler water at higher altitude. That means when gradually the water becomes shallow or deeper, then temperature drops due to less sunlight. Then the meristic features become increasing, which gives the fishes additional benefit to survive in that temperature. Clear? Now, the sixth rule is Rench's rule. This rule is named after Bernhard Rench, who proposed it in the year 1950. This is a biological rule on allometrics. That means we are talking about the statistical shape analysis. This law states that across animal species within a lineage, that means it is almost a general rule for all species. Okay? So, sexual size dimorphism, that means two different forms according to different genders, increases with body size when the male is larger sex and decreases as body size increases when the female is larger sex. That means according to this rule, when body size of male become larger than female, then sexual dimorphism increases, and when the body size of female become larger than male, then sexual dimorphism decreases. This rule can be applied in primates, scales, cattle, and deer. So for example, more sexual dimorphism can be seen in warrens, ducks, peacocks, etc. In them, males are larger in size than females. And less sexual dimorphism can be seen in spotted hyenas, in which females are larger in size than males. Okay? Now the seventh principle is Halden's rule. This rule was named after J.B.S. Halden, and this is mainly an observation than that of a rule. This rule states that if in a species or if in a hybrid species only one sex is inviable or sterile, that means that sex is more likely to be heterogametic sex. That means one with two different sex chromosomes. So suppose if we talk about the hybrid of horse and donkey, which is mule, it is inviable or cannot produce offspring. So if we see their genetic profile, then more likely it can be seen that they are heterogametic sex. So the heterogametic sex is the one with two different sex chromosomes. In case of mammals, this is the male with XY chromosomes. That means males with hetero combinations in mammals. So this observation just depend on the concern of the fertility or the viability of the hybrid. So this rule applied to majority of heterogametic organisms such as Drosophila, mammals, etc. Okay. Now the Hamilton's rule. It is the most important rule which comes from the behavioral ecology. It mainly says about the behavioral aspects. On the basis of altruistic behavior, this rule has been provided. So if you want to know more about this rule, then you can follow the class of my behavioral ecology, and link has been given into the description box. So it is a central theorem of inclusive fitness or kin selection theory, and predicts that social behavior evolves under specific combinations of relatedness, benefit and cost. The rule states that the formula, that is RB, should be always greater than C. Here C demonstrates the cost incurred by the altruist, B demonstrates the benefit by the recipient, and R demonstrates the coefficient of relatedness between donor and recipient. And ordinary diploid and sexually produced organism shares 50% of its genes with either of its parents and siblings, and 25% with its uncle and aunts, grandparents, grandchildren and so forth. So the value of R if become highest, then the probability of altruistic behavior become also greater. Clear? Now the Shelford Law of Tolerance. This rule was proposed in the year 1913. This is a law that states that the abundance or distribution of an organism can be controlled by certain factors such as climatic conditions, biological requirements of plants and animals, etc. That means here I am talking about the living entities, so anything can be possible. So the critical minimum or critical maximum values of an environmental factor influencing organisms, which are called limits of tolerance. So if I talk about the bacteria, then some bacteria can live in very high temperature, but some can live in a very low temperature. So those temperatures are their zones or limits of tolerance. So organisms may have a wide range of tolerance for one factor and a narrow range for another factor. So every organism can show a very good growth or very well growth and distribution pattern in the optimum level. But some organisms even can survive in very low or very high level of parameters. Those have very wide range of tolerance. So the conclusion is the organisms which are widely distributed may have a wide range of tolerance for one factor and a narrow range for the another factors. Clear? Now the 10th and last rule is Blackman's law of limiting factor. Scientist Frederick Blackman coined this law in 1905. According to this law, when a process depends on a number of factors, its rate or speed is limited by the action of slowest factor. That means which is also called limiting factor. So Blackman's law of limiting factor determines the rate of photosynthesis in plants. Such as, he said, suppose a leaf is exposed to certain light density which can utilize 5 mg of CO2 per hour. Then if only 1 mg of CO2 can enter into the leaf in an hour, then the rate of photosynthesis is limited due to less of CO2 factor. But as the concentration of CO2 increases from 1 mg to 5 mg per hour, then the rate of photosynthesis also can increase. So in this case, CO2 is the limiting factor. Clear? So hope your concept about this topic have been cleared after this session. There has provided a link of e-quiz into the description box, so you can score and test yourself by those questions. And if you have any doubt or facing any problem during solving the e-quiz, then after scoring, please ask me into the comment section, and also you can reach to us through our mail ID which is into the description box. I am so much happy to say that in previous lesson I have got your lots of responses and doubts through mail. So don't miss the chance to get a healthy score. Lastly, thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe our channel. Then you can get notification about my next videos which is coming on every Sunday. Stay safe, stay tuned.